Welcome, Internet, to the 19th episode of the PixelPlay Podcast, your weekly podcast where true fans of the video game industry deep dive into the news and give you all their opinions on everything going on this week in the industry. I am one of your hosts, Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy, joined as always by my co-host, Adam, CSRadical. And this week we're going to be talking about the events that are going on around E3 and whether or not they're really needed right now. We're going to be talking about the upcoming state of play for Thursday, May 27th. We're going to be talking about the changes in the difficulty that Skull and Bones is going through, the Ubisoft game. And we're going to talk about a sort of rumor about Steam coming out with a Switch-like handheld. All that more this week's episode. But Adam, first thing I have to ask you, how are you doing?
I'm hot.
Yeah? Oh yeah, you don't have air conditioning, eh?
Nah. It's not as bad as it could be. We had a nice cold day yesterday to kind of even it out. But yeah. I know we're gonna have another hot day tomorrow, and by then it'll probably be a little bit crappy again. The weekend was miserable. It was a long weekend, and mostly long because I was sweating in my chair so long that it felt like an age.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how you do it. For me, the worst thing about having a hot house is not so much the day. It's sleeping, and I don't know how you can sleep in a house that's like 26, 27 degrees.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a gamer though, so sleep is completely compulsory at best.
See, I'm pretty sure my air conditioner has just been running non-stop. I'm going to dread seeing what the bill looks like for it, but it's nice and cool in my basement. Being, in the basement, it's naturally colder, and with a cooler house, it works great. I've got meat hanging on hooks over there, and it's great. I don't have to worry about refrigerating because it's cold as a meat locker in here. So, yeah.
I'd say I envy you, but we both are not the greatest of people here on the show, so I'm going to peek behind the curtain here. This was not first intro. This was fifth.
Adam,
someone was struggling.
Was it really? No, it was not fifth. It was maybe fourth.
trying to cover up mistakes.
I know we give the persona that we, are infallible and we just do a perfect show, right from the get-go, but it takes a little bit of work and a little bit of practice.
Look, we do a perfect show. A perfectly bad show, but a perfect show nonetheless.
It works. It's a great show 100% of the time, 60% of the time.
That math doesn't even make any sense, and I'm not even going to question it.
Don't think about it. No, don't think about it. I certainly didn't. Adam, before we get in, I just want to give everyone a couple updates of what's going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 19. So, next week's episode is episode 20, and Adam and I are going to be doing this live next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find us there on Twitch at CSRadical. Adam, is that
is
what they look for on Twitch? Yeah, so we're going to be going from Adam's Twitch channel, so join us there next week, 8 o'clock, June 1st, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'd love to have you guys there. If you guys want to drop some questions, if you want to be part of the chat, we'd greatly appreciate it. As always, if you have questions, email them to us at pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at PixelPlaycast, or you can find us on Instagram at PixelPlaycast. We are hosted on YouTube, and we are hosted on Spotify, Google, Apple, basically wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. Adam, I figured this week we could kind of start talking about some of the Game Fest and game events that are going on this summer. With E3 right around the corner, everyone's kind of giving what their itineraries and what their schedules are. And I thought we can kind of talk a little bit about that and the relevance of it. How's that sound to you?
I could bust your balls about intros when we do live next week, but I guess I can be nice and kind of let us do something else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's not worry about that. So let's start with Summer Game Fest. This is Jeff Keighley's little project that he was working on last year. So last year when E3 was canceled, Jeff Keighley jumped in and he started his Summer Game Fest in order to, salvage what would have been an E3. It was kind of spanned across the whole summer, and it was okay. But he's coming back this year again, and it's a little bit more refined. So this is coming from Christopher Dring at GameIndustry.biz. So he writes, now Jeff Keighley, is back to do the same thing this June. This time, Keighley is putting on a show called Kickoff Live on Thursday, June 10th. The show will feature a string of game announcements and a few live performances, including from Weezer, that is designed to kick off a series of publisher events, including some that will take place at E3. The idea is that we will have a big kickoff show this year, Keighley tells GameIndustry.biz. Everything last year was so spread apart by nature of the pandemic, and the feel from everyone is that they want these game shows all together. So now we're going to just do a big full-on show for Summer Games Fest that leads into big publisher events, which is hopefully more than which is more of what people wanted, where things are more condensed and combined together. So people have a date and a time to show up for news. That's what we're going for. And then to add to that, IGN is also returning with their IGN Expo. So they wrote on IGN, of course, IGN Expo 2021 will bring together new game reveals, never before seen gameplay, and announcements you won't hear from anyone else. We'll also be partnering with Jeff Keighley's Kickoff Live, bringing you more information about the biggest announcements from June 10th World Premiere Showcase, which you can, of course, watch with us here on IGN. Last year's Summer of Gaming brought you 5 separate IGN Expo events, debuting exclusive announcements, reveals like Yakuza Like a Dragon, Borderlands 3, Chivalry 2, and much, much more. With summer events coming back with a vengeance in 2021, we know you're already going to have a loaded schedule, so we're condensing all of our Expo goodness into a single action-packed show with absolutely no downtime. So, Adam, right off the bat, not going into the necessity of these shows or anything like that, what's your just excitement level for these kind of shows?
It's probably more interesting this year than it is the previous year, because now we have a bit more of a preparedness from at least the part on developers, or at least I would hope so that this year we're going to get a little bit more announcements of games that might actually exist in the next 12 months instead of what actually happened, which was a lot of things got announced and then got pushed back because everybody realized, oh shit, pandemic's really hard to make games in.
Yeah.
And at least it seems like, we're going to have a much more condensed schedule. It doesn't sound like it could be all in one day, because, E3 is what it is for, I think it's like 5 days. But that doesn't mean that every publisher is going to do something within that spectrum. It could be a month worth of stuff. It could be months worth of stuff. It could be 2 weeks worth of stuff. We don't know yet, because, we don't have official dates for a lot of these video packages or announced streams or anything of like that's going on. But like I said, the excitement's definitely going to be higher, only because we might actually see stuff that might be in our hands sooner than usual. And it might not just be a cascade of indie games, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking a shot at indie games. It's just we might actually see some big names show up, and they won't be something that's for like 2-3 years down the line, which I think people are not really in the best of moods for when they've just spent 16, nearly 18 months now literally having nothing to look forward to. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think this is definitely in the right direction of where these shows should be going, in the sense of, last year these events were just way too spread out. And no offense to Jeff Keighley, I just felt like his event didn't really bring anything to the table. I felt it was more, he created this event, tried to get people to fall under the umbrella, and then if people were doing their own thing, which a lot of the big publishers were doing, he was just kind of slapping his sticker on it and just being like, presented by Game Fest, and people were like, no, like they were doing this regardless of you. So I don't know if it's there. So I think having it more of a condensed showcase is what people want, as opposed to a marathon of a summer of just game announcements. It was too much to track, and then you also have to fill it with content. So you have situations where, like, do you remember, like, especially Microsoft, I believe, but I think Sony did this too, where it was like, hey, here's a preview, now stay tuned for like our next show where we'll actually show you the game. And it was kind of like really annoying. I know they did that with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I think it was like Ubisoft was like, hey, like, we're gonna have a preview, and it was just like a short cinematic trailer, and they're like, come back at the Xbox showcase for,
I think it was just like the same trailer they already had or something.
Yeah, so it was like a lack of content spread too thin, and like that's not what people wanted. So I think having these as more condensed one-time events, I think, is going to be more beneficial for them. I guess my question though to you is, with E3 being back, do we need these events?
That all depends on what those events are. I think there's room for as many as we want. It's just a matter of, is it going to be something that's like a one-time thing? Is it maybe a week after E3, a week before E3? Like, is it a pre-game? Is it a post-game? Like, what is it? Because it can all mesh together really well, but if it ends up just being this another diatribe of 2 to 3 months worth of all these little video streams that reveal, let's be honest, like, as much as I enjoyed Summer Games Fest, a lot of what it was a bunch of games that you've never heard of, that you weren't going to play, being shown off. Like I said, I'm not taking shot at indie games, but for the average gamer, you're not looking at all these indie trailers and going, oh my God, like that's what I'm going to stand in line for, because you don't stand in line for that. You see that on the Steam sale in the summer. That's how you know those games. And most of them don't go anywhere. So you just end up spending a lot of those video packages being like, that looks cool, but I'm not going to buy it. That looks cool, I'm not going to buy it. That looks like garbage. That looks cool, but I don't think I could ever justify buying. Like, it's just a lot of, like, that's cool, but, which doesn't help.
Yeah, and this, once again, this is not a slight against indie games, but they typically, and I mean, there are cases where like it breaks the mold, but generally, indie games is not something that you get super hyped for that generates a lot of excitement, like you would for like, you know, a huge AAA first party publisher kind of game.
Yeah, no, you're not going to watch every like indie package and think you're getting the next Valheim right now. So
yeah,
you're looking forward much more to all the AAA content. You're looking forward to what like Xbox and PlayStation, Nintendo and Capcom and Activision, like what they're all doing. You don't like, it's not like we don't care about indie developers. It's just they're not as prevalent in our minds. So like whenever we see stuff from them, we're like, oh, that's cool, but that's about as far as it gets, you know?
Yeah. See, I'm of the mindset I like the fact that Jeff Keighley is doing this kind of stuff. I like the fact that, you know, he is part of this industry and I think is doing an awesome job in terms of, you know, building events, but I don't know if we need a Summer Games Fest on top of an E3. Hell, I don't even know at this point if we need an E3. And my logic is that a lot of companies now are doing these things digitally and they can do it remotely, and so they don't need to have a press conference like that costs tens of thousands of dollars at some conference center. That being said, I think that you need to still have those big conferences. Like I think having those huge shows are beneficial, but for me, there's nothing added to it in that there's nothing there. It's just filler in between trailers, and you can just show me trailers. And I feel like, you know, State of Plays or Nintendo Directs, like that's something that just works just as well. What I think it needs to do is I think it needs to become more something like Gamescom, or instead of publishers spending this money to do a somewhat closed off E3 where, you know, it's not really accessible to people, you can't get into the conferences. I think you need to do more like what PlayStation used to do with PlayStation Experience, where you could kind of go in and actually get your hands on these games and get interactive. And so what I'd like to see is, and what I think would make this really helpful, or at least more value added, is that, hey guys, we're going to be doing this Summer Games Fest. We're going to be demoing games, but the cool thing is that we've talked to all these developers, and anything that you see here is going to have a playable demo. So we're going to have a little link. We're going to have a website. We've talked to Microsoft, talked to PlayStation. You know, they're going to have like a little Summer Games Fest thing, and all the demos are going to be there for 1 week. You can stream them, you can play them, and then they're gone. And that would kind of get people way more hyped. But right now, it's a very passive experience, and we kind of already have that with E3. And I feel like by having E3, by having Summer Game Fest, by having IGN Expo, like they're all segmenting a little bit in the sense that some people are going to do reveals at IGN, some are going to do reveals at E3, some are going to do them at Summer Game Fest. And so you're taking the news, or you've got the releases, or the new, like the game announcements that we'd normally get, and you're just stretching them out further again. And I just don't know if that doesn't do anything.
This would be the honest solution. When E3 is back to being a physical event, Jeff, if he wants to keep doing these things, needs to change the season. It should be like a Winter Game Fest. Change it to a time where it doesn't interfere, so you can have like your own little bit. It's away from E3, so it doesn't feel like it's a slog fest of all these video packages and streams you got to keep up with. You segment it out. Now, IGN will always have an E3 presence. They'll just do what they normally do, which is have their interviews and their little extra coverage thing that they do. But if Jeff wants to do the kind of thing that he's doing with Summer Game Fest, it can't work around the same time at E3 if we have a normal festival. If he wants to do his interviews and stuff like that, that's totally fine. No problem. But I don't want to see another 2, 3, 4 streams of all these game trailers and shit when I already have 3, 4, 5 days of this already happening at E3. So
yeah.
If it was moved, I could see it making sense, because at least then Not even, it doesn't even have to be reveals. It can just be updates on games that are going to be coming out in 12 months as of E3, and now it's 6 months in, and they can be like, hey, here's some gameplay footage, or here's some more. Like, okay, by the way, this game is going to go into open beta soon, so you guys can test this out, or here, demo is going to be launching in 3 months. There's all these different ways around it.
I feel like that's what he's kind of done though with his Game Awards. So
yeah, that's true. I honestly, that probably would be. That makes it even weirder because you can't take the trailers and stuff away from the Game Awards because then otherwise no one cares. Like let's be real. Like when it comes to the Game Awards, if you stop putting in trailers, you lose half the audience guaranteed minimum. Yeah. It might even be more than that. It might be 75%.
I would say so. So I think for me, for something like Summer Games Fest or something to make sense, I think it needs to become more interactive and more direct for the players, right? So you need to start working with these companies and saying like, hey, you guys are going to be showing these games. Let me sort of make it so that they can play them and get their hands on.
They could also go a lot more out of their range instead of it just being trailers and reveals. They could be like, hey, here's like this special gaming event. Like we got, just because it's always the name, we got Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg's going to come in and we're going to have him play this game that's, just got revealed. Here he is playing a demo of it for the first time. You get to see him do it and he'll answer questions while he's playing. Like you can do cool stuff like that. But yeah, like I think we were saying earlier with like, E3 is already going to be a cavalcade of trailers and reveals and demos and all this stuff. We don't need that on top of that, with IGN probably wanting to do their own thing. And you got all these other companies that want to do their own little things. Like, do something to pull away and be a little bit different. I think that might be able to be a better way around it than just being the trailer like stream again, right?
You definitely nailed it. You have to pull away from that and do something different. Because like Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo are not going to give you their big announcements to drop at the Games Fest. They're going to save that for their conferences. Unless Game Fest is just a Trojan horse for Sony to just come in with E3 and no one's expecting it.
I don't think they're pulling the cheap pop by just keeping Sony behind the pane of glass, just being like, hey, here we go. It's time for, the last reveal here, and Microsoft steps off the stage. All of a sudden, you hear the glass crack. And then friggin' like Stone Cold Steve Austin, friggin' what's his face from Sony just strolls right in and be like, now wait just a damn minute.
Is that Shuhei?
I don't think that's going to happen. It would be awesome, but it's not going to happen.
Don't lose hope there, Adam. Don't lose hope.
That's not hope. That is what we call delusion.
Speaking of Sony just announced, I think it was today they announced, was it today or yesterday, that they're going to be doing a state of play for Thursday, May 27th, 2 p.m. or 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's pretty much going to be a deep dive into Horizon Forbidden West. 20-minute, I think it's a 20-minute show with 14 minutes of Horizon gameplay or something like that.
Yep.
Adam, first of all, what are you expecting from this? Are you expecting to get blown away? Are you like, what's your excitement level for this?
I'm expecting to be like, I want this in my veins right the fuck now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a COVID shot on Saturday. I'm gonna want Horizon Zero, like Forbidden West, shot in there first. I don't care. I want that in my veins first.
You get that option. You don't get that option where it's like,
look,
would you like Horizon?
I want the Moderna, but before that, I want the Horizon Forbidden West, please.
Oh damn! Why didn't I ask for that?
Well, you were too busy asking for the Cyberpunk. Sorry, you got that. There's a few bugs in it. It might have to get taken off the shelf and get put back on later. But
Are you suggesting that Cyberpunk is the AstraZeneca of the gaming world?
No.
Adam, do you think we're gonna get a release date for this game?
I would hope so. I mean, if you're going to direct a whole stream towards it, you better have a release date, especially if you're showing gameplay. And I think we're all assuming it's still aiming for this year, so it wouldn't surprise me to see a November 15th or something like that release. So
is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? You're going to say November 15th?
Well, I have to pull up my calendar to see what actual release dates would look like.
Let's do it right now.
Because what's the normal release days now? Is it Thursdays? I think it's all over the place. I don't think they really have a set day anymore. It used to be like Tuesdays.
It's Tuesdays and Fridays, but I think most of them now for Sony come out on Fridays.
So that would probably be like a 12th or the 19th level thing if it was like mid-November.
Hmm.
I mean, anytime, if it has 2021 attached to it, I'm still happy. I don't really care when that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think November 12th.
If they kind of came out of nowhere and be like, hey guys, it's going to be there in July, I'd be like, whoa, shit.
It's releasing today.
Yeah, well, remember, Sony's not doing an E3. We don't get those.
Oh, that's right. So that was my second question, Adam. You know, honestly, Horizon Forbidden West is Sony's biggest title for 2021. And if they're showing that now, what do you think that means like for Sony in terms of what we see from them both for maybe E3 and for the summer?
Well, for starters, we already know that like a couple of games that they have in production that are their big players, like God of War will be next year for sure. Gran Turismo is going to be next year. And like we said, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but they're working on apparently 25 games, so they've got stuff. So I'm sure they got a few things that they can show off, whether it's trailers for games coming out this year, especially because they might have a couple of indie things, smaller titles that, they can say like, hey, it'll be ready in 3 more months. We're just ironing it out. Or it's DLC for games they already have, or it's third-party stuff that's exclusive to their console for 6 months or 12 months or whatever down the line that they're looking at. There's all these ways they can get around, not having all this new IP that's suddenly going to appear in the span of 12 months. But it's going to be a mixture of, a lot of stuff from outside developers. I'm sure you're going to see something of Call of Duty, or you might see some Final Fantasy stuff from Square or whatever else. But I mean, in terms of their own stuff, I'm sure we'll see like one big name, whether it's an Uncharted or maybe a Bloodborne 2, because that was a big thing on their console. Maybe we see if what Sucker Punch is working on next. Who knows? Like, there's a lot of possibilities that we can go with.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not an industry insider. I got no goddamn idea what they're working on. They might blow my socks away and be like, hey, we contracted Square to finally make a new Chrono game after X amount of decades, but I'm not holding out for that one either.
Who's being delusional now?
Oh, it's me. It's totally me.
Yeah, I for me, like, I kind of figured that we would be getting something from Sony like around the time of E3. It's weird for Microsoft and Nintendo and like all the big companies to come out in the next 2 weeks and say, here's everything to expect from us, and Sony just sits there quietly. And Sony's been sitting there quietly a lot, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. I know that PlayStation's selling well, and they've got, like they're doing well, like they're not doing bad right now, but at some point, as it sits quietly, like we haven't got any big announcements yet in terms of what's coming out.
I don't think they're going to hang on. I don't think they're holding the cards that much longer. I mean, we think of like the future of gaming, which was their big one, and that's where the PS5 reveal was last year. That was June 4th. So I imagine at some point in the next, I don't know, let's say 8 to 10 weeks, by the time we hit like the end of July, we'll have a pretty definitive idea of what they're doing. So, I mean, like, I guess I'm the one that's kind of cautiously being like, I know they're going to do something. There's no way they don't. It's just a matter of when and when they'll kind of announce it. I think the Horizon thing is just a tease for the bigger picture that they're going to be launching at some point later in the summer. I think they're probably waiting for the press of E3 to die down so they can jump right in and be like, all right, Xbox, time to wash you up again.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they would definitely be something that would occur after E3, just because Sony has a propensity for going after Microsoft and, responding to them if they can. But I think you're right. I think it'll be something like after E3 settles, and they're probably just doing this Horizon Zero Dawn thing to kind of, get it out of the way, in the hopes that, when they do their presentation, it's gonna be, hey, here's everything for 2022. So you're gonna see God of War, you're gonna see Ragnarok, you're going to see Gran Turismo, maybe the next Spider-Man, maybe you'll see what Blue Point's working on. Who knows? There's a lot of games that have come out yet that we haven't. Like you said, there's 25 games that they're working on that we haven't seen yet. And I just feel like Sony's been very quiet, and it's time for them to say something. And I was kind of expecting that this is what they were going to be holding on to. But the fact that they're releasing it now before E3, I feel like it's a pretty interesting play to do. And I'm curious. I'd just love to be in the war room and see what they're doing.
I will ask the honest question, though. Do you think they have to say something right now? Because let's be honest, what's Xbox saying? Like, let's be real. Like, I'm not trying to be the fanboy here. What's Xbox actually saying that's like really driving the market? Because as far as we know, Sony's still doing better in sales. So, and
Yeah.
neither side's really coming out with anything. So maybe Sony's just doing the same thing that they did during last year, where they really, now granted, I hated that they took so goddamn long to say anything, but they waited very patiently to let Xbox tip their hand a little bit so they could come in and be like, all right, now let's top it.
So for me, like I think the thing is that like, and we talked about this a couple episodes ago, is that Microsoft is constantly coming out with, and it's slowed down a little bit now, but you know, they acquired Bethesda, and now they're, you know, we're hearing things like, oh yeah, Bethesda's Starfield is going to be an Xbox exclusive. Like if Microsoft comes out and they're like, hey, here's Halo, hey, here's Fable, you know, we're working on these new IPs, here's Hellblade 2. You know, here's the new Fallout coming out. Here's the Starfield trailer. Starfield's coming out, you know, 2022. They've got all these games lined up, and if Sony's just sitting there quietly, I mean, it's one of those
You can
things, like,
make the argument that they can stay quiet as long as they want because they're not the ones chasing.
Agreed.
It's like when it's, look, I'm going to be really Canadian here for a second. When you are the home team in a hockey game, you get the last line change. Mm-hmm. So if you are the home team, or I guess in this case for Sony, if you're the winning team right now, if you're the one that's at the top, you're waiting to see what line your opponent puts out so that you can counter their line. So I imagine Sony doesn't have to do shit because they can wait for Xbox to show their entire lineup and then go, okay, so what do we do to counter this, and this that they've shown off? Because there's stuff that they were probably sitting there on their big war room, their big table with all the red strings connected to everything, being like, okay, if this happens, we do this. If this happens, we do this. So if they suddenly say, oh, Halo, it's going to be out for sure at the end of this year, like just something like that, they go, okay, now we can pull something out. Okay, now let's pull the big gun out. Let's get the release date for God of War ready. Let's get that in stone so people are excited about that. Let's get them talking. Let's have this reveal that we've been putting on the back burner and kind of hidden privately for like 6 months that no one knows about. It's going to shock everybody. Like the Final Fantasy VII remake that Square like kept forever saying never existed, and then it finally got revealed. So there's a lot of things that you can do to just quietly just hang on to, wait for that moment that Microsoft tips everything and goes, and we're about to shoot it out of the water, slam it on the table, and be done with it. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's probably their thought process with whatever they're holding right now, is that we know, like, and I'm talking Sony, they're saying to each other, we know that what we have can top whatever they have. So as soon as they get it, and we get everybody thinking, like, okay, well, how awesome does this look? You give it a week or two, then you say, okay, our big thing is next week or 2 weeks from now. Now suddenly the conversation changes to a little bit of, okay, here's what Microsoft's got coming down, but now people are like, well, what's Sony going to talk about? And then Sony slams the lineup down, and if all goes well, no one's talking about Xbox unless you're a hardcore Xbox, because now the entire conversation shifted. That's probably where they're thinking.
I see where you're coming from there, but I don't know if necessarily if Sony is that nimble. I mean, the game schedules and like the progress, like those are all, you know, they're big moving ships, and it's hard to turn a big ship.
Well, but I think you know when most of the release dates are going to be, and it's like pro wrestling, like WWE has packages all over the place, ready in case somebody. They legitimately have all these packages for if somebody suddenly dies. Like they have things ready to go. I'm sure Sony's the same way. They've got trailers in the can. They've got gameplay footage from like alphas of some of these games that are getting released. They've got things ready to go so that if they need to come up with something fast, they at least have something ready. It may not be something in 6 months, but it might be something enough to be like, that'll get people going, that'll get the buzz generating again, and then in maybe another few months you can come down with a little bit more. I'm sure if they really need to, they can throw something on the table right now to make us go, oh shit, that's going to be awesome. But they don't need to, like I said.
Yeah.
As a fan, it sucks, because I want to know what's coming.
Brutal.
But I mean, as a business, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
Speaking of things that are ready or not ready right now, one other game we've gotten an update for, and it's not a good one, is Skull and Bones, the Ubisoft pirate game.
The game that we keep thinking exists and doesn't exist, and then actually exists again, but no, actually it doesn't exist, and now it exists?
It exists in our hearts. So Nirav Gandhi at GameLuster wrote, according to sources familiar with inner workings at Ubisoft, who has not asked not to be identified, the ship combat adventure title Skull and Bones has to restart development from scratch a second time just a few months ago. Our source has told us that the new alpha build is very similar to Microsoft's popular multiplayer pirate game, Sea of Thieves, and uses a first-person point of view when they're in the ship, but turns to third person when you exit the ship. They also said that the game is pretty early stages right now, and even using many untextured boxes, so there's no way it'll be done in time for the 2021 launch, and likely not even until 2022. Adam, first off, are we ever going to see Skull and Bones?
We probably will, but I hope we don't.
Why?
Because I don't think it's going to be good. And even if it's good, it's not going to be nearly what we want it to be. You already said it straight when you're like, oh, it's going to be first person on the ship, but it'll be third person when you get off the ship. This is a message to Ubisoft. You guys have one job with this game. Make Black Flag again, just without assassinations. That's right. All you had to do. Copy everything that you made, take out the Assassin and Templar shit, and just make it pirates. That's all 100%. You had to do. You could have literally taken the same map of Black Flag, said this takes place 20 years before Black Flag happens, and just get...
it doesn't even take place in Black Flag.
Jack... Oh, no, I was about to say Jack Black. I'm like, wait, nope.
You could be Jack Black.
I mean,
Jack Black's not doing anything right now.
Yeah, you know what? Screw it.
Jack Black.
You're Jack Black,
on the phone.
Senior the 14th. I don't fucking know. So you're Jack Black the pirate, and you're sailing the high seas in the exact same world as Black Flag takes in, and you go have a blast just plundering shit. It's not that hard. The fact that they've had to restart this twice is really a poor representation of how clearly they saw the license to print money and just tried to and figured they could just do whatever they wanted with it, and without realizing that, oh, we have to actually make a good game that we should probably... Oh, shit.
Yeah, this is the thing. It boggles my mind that they're having this much trouble with it. You literally already made a Skull and Bones. It's called Assassin's Creed Black Flag. You know, you've got it there. The gameplay, like, everybody loved it. If you just said, hey, we made basically Black Flag without Assassin's Creed. It is just an original pirate story. You know, you're going around on your ship, and, like, yeah, it would be awesome. You can just make it like some generic pirate story. You're working on this crew, you get this heist, you basically, your captain betrays you, and now you have to start with a rinky-dink boat, and you climb your way to becoming like a renowned pirate, and you get revenge. Boom, your story is done, your gameplay is basically...
You would even make it lead into Black Flag somehow and connect it to Assassin's Creed, because, hey, you're already copying the game as it is, you can just make it match. And it'll make people feel cool about, like, oh shit, that's the guy, and it'd be like a cool way to end it. And then, yeah, you can just kind of... Because you know that if they made an actual Skull and Bones game, assuming it ever comes out, there's going to be Assassin DLC for it. There are going to be 100%. Some Assassin's Creed costumes. So you might as well tie it in.
Nah, I don't want it to touch the Assassin's Creed Black Flag at all. But honestly, like, I don't understand how they're having this much trouble. And, like, they're trying to copy Sea of Thieves, like... I'm not saying it, like, I know Sea of Thieves came out rough, and I know it's improved drastically, but, like...
Who's talking about Sea of Thieves?
Sorry?
Who's talking about Sea of Thieves?
Exactly, right?
Like I'm not trying to be a dick,
no,
but let's be honest, like, who in the industry is really talking about Sea of Thieves? So why copy it?
Has a player base. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad game. It has a player base who are dedicated to it, but it's not capturing the world by storm in that sense. So I think to make another live service game where it's like, hey, be a pirate with your friends, like, no, that kind of sucks, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, we wanted the Black Flag game again. That's what we wanted. We just didn't want assassins. We just wanted straight pirates. That's all it had to be. And they're trying to make it something it's not, and that's the problem.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, Black Flag was an okay Assassin's Creed game, but an amazing pirate game that was kind of, you know, hamstrung by the whole Assassin's Creed part. And I think that if they just made that game again without it, like, that's all it needs. Just make an original story. You've got the assets, you've got the maps. Like, I mean, I'd like to see a bit more work put in than that, but, like, you've got the skeletal frame. Like, how are you having to go to the drawing board so many times? Yeah. Pro tip, Ubisoft. Here's a little bit of advice from me, and believe me, I probably know more about this project than you guys do seem to, because you've already failed at it twice. Give it up and just get these guys who apparently can't make a video game to save their lives right now to just remaster Black Flag and put that out, because it's probably the best option you have at this point. I'm actually being a bit of a dick here intentionally, because look, like, this was the easiest layup I think I've ever had a video game developer make, and they can't even do it. So, like, I'm
I'm actually annoyed. Like, I'm not usually pissed off by a developer when it has something to do with the games itself, because like I'm mad at CD Projekt Red, but not because of Cyberpunk. I'm mad at their business decisions. I'm mad at Ubisoft and Activision and all these companies, not because of the games they make, except EA, that's different. But it's because of their business practices. Ubisoft was Skull and Bones, though. Because I'm mad at Ubisoft for different reasons, but this one makes me legitimately mad because it's a game that should be so much fucking fun, and they can't do it somehow.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe nobody else has sat there and been like, man, this game has been canceled and redone so many times. Fuck it. Let's make our own. Let's, like, somebody else step in and do this. Like, just go for it. I don't even care at this point.
Yeah. You have the blueprints. You've made a game. It's been proven successful. Everyone's wanting it. And like you said, it's an easy layup, and they just tripped and fell flat on the ground.
Like, who could we think of that could make a better pirate game right now? Like, who would be a great, like, thing for it at this point? I'd love to have a Sucker Punch do a pirate game right now after seeing what they did with Ghost. Can you imagine like that pedigree right now with a pirate license?
Yeah, I could definitely see. Yeah, that would be a good one to have.
Like, that's the immediate one, but there's so many other projects they'd be doing first, so there's no way.
Yeah, there's a ton that would do like an awesome job. Like,
hell, let's even get Naughty Dog on it. They already do Uncharted. It's pretty close to pirates.
No, I think you need something with a little bit more of an open world for a pirate game.
I don't know. An Uncharted like pirate game sounds like a lot of fun, because instead of you finding the treasure, you're acquiring the treasure.
It's a prequel to Uncharted.
Exactly. See, that's the actual Uncharted 5. It's actually you playing as Magellan or something.
Yeah. No, I think like you could get. There's a ton of people you can get to do it. Like you can get Riot to do it. You could get. Riot's the one that. Oh no, it's Respawn. Respawn. Sorry. The guys who made Star Wars, like they could do that one. There's like a ton that are just I can't. And like you said, Sucker Punch would be an awesome one. Even Insomniac, if we're going that route. But yeah, I like it's a ton. And it's funny because pirates is such an untapped market. Like, and that's the thing I was thinking about this when I said the story. Is like, it's really cool that we're moving past the like. Not generic, but like the stuff that we've seen all the time. Like, it's cool that we're now getting Viking games and we're now getting samurai games and we're getting pirate games. Like, I'm liking that we're exploring these other genres because the whole zombie and military kind of thing was getting kind of stale.
Oh, it's okay. There's going to be like 50 more.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we won't be getting a pirate game because apparently Ubisoft can't make one, so.
Oh, no, we'll be getting a pirate game just eventually, and it won't be good.
Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. I think we're going to get one because they put so much money into it. They might as well put something out, but I think it's going to be so bad.
Yeah.
I'm praying for 6 out of 10s at this point with this game.
No, I mean, I'd love the game. I'd love to be proven wrong. Like, I'd always rather have a good game I'd rather be wrong and have a good game than be right about a bad game. So I'm hoping for, but I'm not expecting a good game.
Yeah, I can't expect much at this point, given the development cycle of this has been like probably worse than Duke Nukem Forever at this point.
Dude, imagine if we had a BioWare pirate game.
Yeah, I would have been happier with that like 10 years ago, but BioWare has not been on the best of terms with me, so I'm not 100% behind that right now. I mean, I may be enjoying the Legendary Edition right now of Mass Effect, but that's also because it's 3 games that I already know are good, so...
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, now I'm depressed now.
Yeah, me too. Adam, let's bring it back up. We'll bring up some interesting, exciting stuff. How would you feel about having a new handheld console?
Should you be asking me that question?
Sorry?
Should you be asking me that question, the guy who hates handhelds?
Okay, yeah, this is going to be an interesting topic then. It may not be as positive as you thought it might be. So Valve is making a Switch-like portable gaming PC.
Allegedly.
So this comes... Allegedly. So this comes from Matt Michkovich, and it's at, I think it's Ars Technica?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, Ars Technica. And he writes, video game and hardware studio Valve has been secretly building a Switch-like portable PC designed to run a large number of games on the Steam PC platform via Linux. And it could launch, supply chain willing, by year's end. Multiple sources familiar with the matter have confirmed that the hardware has been in development for some time, and this week Valve itself pointed to a device by slipping new hardware-related code into this latest version of Steam, the company's popular PC gaming storefront and ecosystem. Technically, that's true. The Steam Pal who they put in air quotes because it's not a confirmed device final name, is an all-in-one PC with gamepad controls and a touchscreen. In other words, it looks and functions like a Nintendo Switch, albeit without removable Joy-Con controller functionality. Adam, what should we expect from a Valve handheld console?
That depends on the price.
Yeah.
That's the big if.
For this to be a successful, let's say from a successful, if this is going to be a successful console, and we have to like keep in mind functionality, form factor, price, everything.
It's got to be the Switch minimum. If it's any more expensive than the Switch or any less quality than the Switch, it fails. Mm-hmm. I don't think people should be expecting 1080p or 4K quality on a handheld because that's pointless. Mm-hmm. Get 720p high settings in PC games on this thing, and you're fine. Mm-hmm. If the price point is right, it's fine. The only interesting question at that point is left to what games will actually be playable on it. Because to my knowledge, I did a little bit of research on it, not too much, but enough to kind of get a grasp of it. It seems like natively about maybe 20% of games on Steam can run on Linux. And through emulation, you can up the number.
I was looking at the number, and that was 20% just as is without any sort of modifications to it.
So the question is what games are that? Because the question alongside of that is what games aren't, which is what big games aren't, because there will be some that don't make the cut, and that's the part you got to be worried about. Not to mention, will those games function with the control? I don't know how they build this thing in terms of how its controller support will work. Like, who knows? Maybe things won't work with the controller the way they want to, because there are some games that are just meant to be mouse and keyboard, and if this thing's portable. It's not going to go very well because, like, not every strategy game is designed for a touchscreen or is designed for controller support. So there's a lot of weird things that can come up with all these games that I don't know how you curate that library then at that point. Because that's the thing. Nintendo, it has to pass through them before it goes up. We know that things don't really pass through Valve when they get put on Steam. They just kind of end up there. So if they just go through all their games and be like, oh yeah, this will run without crashing, like the bare minimum, and then just put it on a store, well, what happens when those games don't function all that well? Because if it's 20% of Steam games, that's a lot of games. Who's testing all of that? No one's going to test all of that. They're not going to put the effort in for that. So that's the thing. I love the idea because I have friends of mine that I know would kill to be able to take those games on the road with them. Mm-hmm. But I have questions, and a lot of them that are really, really difficult to answer. And I think that's the part where I'm like, I'd need to know a lot more about this thing before I'd even if I was interested in handheld gaming, I'd want to know a lot more before I'd buy it. I don't buy handhelds because I basically drive everywhere I go. So I feel like the cops would pull me over, or I'd dive, whichever comes first. Probably the latter. So I can't really do that, and I have a PC, a PS5, a PS4, and a laptop all in my house, or my apartment, I should say. I don't have a house. I'm fucking poor as shit. I can't help that. I don't imagine me reaching for the Steam Pal over anything else, especially when I have a laptop and a PC that can function better than that thing will. And I'm certainly, like, what am I going to do? Walk into my bedroom and just, like, plop down this thing? I could literally just, like, pull a tiny TV over and just, like, wirelessly transmit it.
Yeah, I think you raise a lot of interesting points. I think one thing that people have to keep in mind is that not everything on Steam is going to be compatible with, like, the Steam handheld. I think Steam probably looks at it and they see a lot of, like, because there's a lot of games that are on Nintendo Switch that are also on Steam. And they're kind of looking at it being like, we can kind of quickly make one of those, but you're not going to get, big, you're not going to get big AAA modern games on there. Like, sure, it could probably do the old generation stuff. It could probably run, things like Stalker. It could probably run Fear, do that kind of stuff. But I don't think you're going to get brand new.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect like Escape from Tarkov or like really intense games like that take up a lot of graphic space and a lot of computer usage. I don't think you're going to get that on a handheld. And if you are, it's not going to be cheap then.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it has to... This is where you run into a certain situation because you either need to have it very expensive, but if you're going to make it very expensive, you now need to justify that price with high-quality games. No one's going to drop $700 to
Yeah,
play
I mean, we
a bunch of
associate the
indie
PC
games.
master race with expensive consoles. Are they are people really going to dole out another expensive amount of money for a handheld version of that when they could just get a PC? Like, there's already that amount of money they're spending in on the PC version for Steam.
Mhm.
I don't know if people want to throw, like, let's say as an arbitrary number, $700-800 on a
Mhm.
handheld console that can handle, like, let's say highest settings at 1080p, for example, on a handheld screen.
Mhm.
And again, I keep asking the question: do you even need that? Because if it's
Well,
just handheld, like,
mhm.
let's assume it's just like, say it's like the Switch Lite, for example. It doesn't have the dock, right?
Mhm.
If it's just meant to be for handheld gaming, why would you ever want to have a crazy fidelity on that screen? You don't need to.
Yeah, and then this raises the question: if you have a docking station, well, then it's just become a console. And I
Yeah,
would
then you
imagine
just
that a
buy a
lot of
PC or a laptop. Actually, yeah, just
well,
get a laptop.
get a laptop or get a PC. But like, I don't know if Steam, like, because if you're getting into like a base and a docking station now, you're basically into a console. And I would imagine that there's a large section of Steam users who aren't looking to get into a console. They like the fact that they are able to build their own rigs.
Like, if you're
And so,
so interested in getting a handheld console, like, why don't you figure out how to emulate all this stuff better so you can just have a literal TV stick that you can just stream it into people's TVs and it costs next to nothing? You're gonna sell a crap ton of those. I'm so surprised Xbox hasn't popped out their Game Pass stick that they were talking about a while back.
hey, E3. Yeah, so I think what the games that you're gonna see is you're gonna see things like what's that one where it's like the prison guard simulator? You're gonna see like that. You're gonna
What,
see
Prison Architect?
yeah, prison architect. Thank you. You're gonna see like prison architect. You're gonna see like Among Us. You're gonna see like those kind of low.
You might be looking at things
Graph-
like Deep Rock Galactic is like a big one, like in terms of like what you should be looking for in terms of the higher spectrum.
Maybe Saints.
I can't imagine like, say, Cyberpunk on this
No,
thing.
you're looking at stuff like maybe like Saints Row 3 and like that kind of stuff. Just
But again, the
Cause
price
and
point is what changes it. Like, if we find out this thing is $400, then we can at least start to put a framework in of, okay, what's probably going to be able to like, for $400, what handheld hardware is going to be able to support X amount of games? But if this thing ends up being $800, then the question is, okay, now how many can we stuff into this? Like, now it just becomes like, okay, what doesn't make the cut?
yeah. But the problem is that regardless of how much the system costs, one of the things is as you get more and more powerful and demanding games, it's going to start eating at the battery. And so you're going to have a situation where you don't have the battery power to make it really a portable console. I mean, if you
But
think about
that's
it, the
that's
Switch is
the
like,
customer's problem after you buy it.
yeah.
It's like
But I
Joy-Con
mean, like,
drift. Yeah.
but even the Switch when it's running Zelda, I think is like max is like 4 hours battery time.
It's not great from what I understand.
It's not great, but that's a console that isn't super demanding and is built, and that game is built to run on a handheld console.
It can run
Um,
Cyberpunk, but only for 15 minutes.
yeah, gets to the loading screen and just crash, and like it just like
Oh yeah, that's
dies.
true. It actually only lasts for 15 seconds because the game crashes. Sorry, my
Yeah.
bad.
So they have the working title as Steam Pal. What do you think of that name?
That won't be the final
No,
name.
God, no. Do you have any proposals? Gabe Newell's listening to this podcast, I'm sure. Let's throw some titles out to him.
I don't. I've got one. I'm trying to think.
I got one off
bad
my top of my
puns.
head right now. You call it the Steam Engine because the Steam Engine goes places. I love it. Don't no.
So then call it the Steam Train.
You could call it the Steam Train. Yeah. Or I think at one point it was like codenamed like Neptune. So, which is kind of neat.
I don't think any of us can come up with a name that makes any sense.
Call it the Vapor. Just
That
vapor.
actually, that sounds like that sounds like one of those like really bad like esports or like gamer like peripheral like company names, like the Vapor headset. You know, it comes with all these random things that you don't need.
You know, you laugh, but if it comes out with one of my names, I'm just totally gonna never let it go.
Okay, but if it's called the Steam Engine or the Steam Train, are we really patting ourselves on the back for like taking a half a second to come up with a really easy name? It's gonna be something dumb. It can't be. It's not gonna be Xbox standard dumb. Like, don't worry, they're not gonna completely confuse us with letters and numbers. But
Just to spin the wheel of what we're gonna name the console.
yeah,
Xbox One. Okay, great. What's
box.
the next one? Xbox Series X. Great, good job.
They might as well just start going the car company and be like, all right, this is the 2024 Xbox.
With heated leather seats.
I mean, you make the joke, but I mean, who knows? Have you ever heard of what Origin PC does or used to do? They used to have like this little like Tesla, like, you know, like those miniature cars you as a kid would get to ride in, like those battery powered like cars.
Yeah.
So at some point they made one of these in a Tesla, and there was actually a PC in the trunk of it. Really? I know. My question was why too.
Yeah, that's the first question I think many would have.
So I don't know. Maybe you know what? Steam's just gonna have a literal train. Like we're just gonna go as far down the line as we can.
It's just gonna be Thomas's tank engine.
Yeah, well, of course. Like that's literally the most modded thing in there. Like next to like Macho Man Randy Savage. So.
Yeah, I was watching like the modding of Resident Evil Village, and it's just like putting Thomas's face on like Lady Demescu or whatever her name is.
Yeah. Yes. I fuck. My brain's already getting shot now because for fun, I'm gonna put it on the screen right now for us for watching the video version of which you can check on the PixelPlay Podcast YouTube channel. That's the Tesla computer. It's weird. My brain is still broken every time I see it. So
like this is just like a kid's toy.
It's a kid's toy, but an adult level PC in it, like super awesome PC in it. The thing is like $15,000 or something.
Yeah, because the first thing the kid's gonna do is check the RAM. They're gonna crash that thing, and that all that liquid cooling's gonna be gone.
Yeah,
man.
But if you got $15,000 to spend on this thing, you're not really worried about that, are you?
It's really just a casing for a PC, and they just put it into a car.
I'm sorry, I got so sidetracked, but goddamn, I couldn't stop thinking about that thing now because I'm like, it looks so stupid.
It does. Adam, any sort of things, anything you want to see out of the Valve Switch, or?
I just want it to be affordable. Like, again, I don't care about handhelds, but what I want is for customers to have a product that they can actually get. I said the same thing with all the new consoles. I'm like, look, I don't care how powerful it is. Like, I want it to be as powerful as possible, but I don't want people to go into fucking debt over it. Mm-hmm. So I don't want people who probably already spent way too much on their PC because they can't help themselves. I should know. Thank God I didn't spend nearly as much as I wanted to on a PC because that would have cost me a lot of money if I got what I wanted to. So I would not want people to spend so much on a PC and then see that they could take it on the road with them and then spend another way too much money on this thing that literally they're just going to play like 2 or 3 games on. So
yeah,
I would tell most people to just kind of, whether or not this is true, first of all, take it with a grain of salt until it's revealed. And then once they reveal it, assume that they haven't told you the whole story yet, because I guarantee you they're not going to tell us everything right away. They're just going to give us a showing of it and a name, and that's as far as it's going to go. They're not going to tell us what it can actually play yet.
Yeah.
They'll throw a couple of games that you know on there, but you're also going to notice they're probably going to be low on the lower end. Like, they'll probably be like, hey, you can play DayZ on it.
Yeah. Play on the background. Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think, I think after the Steam, what was it called, that system that they had where they basically just had like a bunch of different Steam consoles.
Oh, the Steam boxes.
Yeah, the Steam box. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see, like, they don't have a good track record in terms of like branching out, so we'll see.
Yeah, no, when I saw that news earlier, I was just like, even if I was a handheld guy, I'm like, man, Steam doesn't have a track record of doing anything good outside of games. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
And they don't support it very long. I know like those kind of failed, like those kind of got dropped pretty quickly. So
well, that's the other thing too. Even if they have the money, obviously, to back it if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. But if it doesn't do remotely well compared to what Nintendo pulls off, they're just going to pull the plug and be like, nah, it's not worth our time.
Exactly. Anyways, I think that about does it for us. Adam, any closing thoughts before we wrap up the episode?
Don't buy Tesla cars that have PCs in them.
But buy Tesla cars though, right? What's the issue? Is the issue the car, or is it the computer?
Well, I mean, I can't afford either, so does that count?
See, my thing is, if you're going to buy the Tesla, what's an extra $15,000 on top of it?
Well, from what I hear,
I don't have Tesla money.
Tesla doesn't even do that well because I heard they got sued recently over them messing with people's batteries. But
yeah, I don't have a Tesla, so it's not my problem yet.
Well, look, we'll worry about the green energy stuff in electric cars when every building can have an easy access to them, because every time I hear the stat, like this is a total tangent, but like every time I hear they think we're going to be able to go completely electric cars by 2035, my brain still goes, okay, but you have 14 years to give all these plug outlets that people have to charge their cars in if we eliminate diesel or gas cars. Where's all that going to go? I live in an apartment complex. I don't think the building's going to want to supply 30 plus outlets for people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff with that I'm like, it sounds cool on paper, but in practice, I don't know how that's going to work out yet.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully one day I'd like to get a Tesla car someday.
I mean, Summer Game Fest, on paper looked pretty cool, but in the first practice, it didn't go so well. So, see, I can tie it back.
There we go. All right, so let's leave it there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching us. Again, if you're a regular, thank you so much. We see you guys on the we see the metrics of you guys watching, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you like the episode, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with grandma. Like I said, she's lonely at home. She would love to hear from us. So get her connected with us as well.
I'm sorry, Grandma.
If this is your first time, we hope it was good for you. We know it was good for us. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com. We can be found anywhere that you get your podcasts as well. We are on YouTube. If you want to see the new videos that Adam has now incorporated in them, they are now on YouTube. You can also reach us through the socials at PixelPlayCast on Twitter. And we're PixelPlayCast as well on Instagram. We post every Wednesday, and we next week are going to be live. So if you are free and you're here, join us at twitch.tv/CSRadical at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is going to be June 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'd love to see you guys get involved, get in the chat. We'd love to have you guys join us.
And make fun of Kaylan when he screws up the intro on the live show.
No, I'm going to practice. I'm going to not screw it up.
He's going to be spending all of like Monday in front of a mirror being like, all right, hi, this is the Pixel Play Pod. Hi.
You've shamed me into the point that I'm going to have to do it on the first go. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's been our show. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys next week. Bye now.